Hello guys, welcome back to Java session. In this video, we are going to cover Servlet lifecycle along with lifecycle methods with syntaxes and how to create Servlet, how to run the Servlet, how to deploy it and how to run. These are all the things we are going to cover and the methods which we are going to use and what is the difference between those methods. These are all the parts we are going to cover in this particular video, right? So what is the life cycle of this servlet means? But it has three life cycle methods. One is init, the other one is service, next one is destroy. These are the three methods which are used in the servlet life cycle, right? So first, what I'm saying, loading the servlet. Sir, what is meant by loading servlet means? So the servlet class is loaded when the first request for the servlet is received by the web container. As we know, we have the web container we seen in the last session. So the web container, what it will do, it will sends the request to the servlet. Whenever the servlet receives the request for the first time, that time it loads the servlet, right? Then we will create the object to the servlet class. After loading the servlet class, what we will do? Here, this web container, it is responsible to create the request object and response object, right? So that servlet instance is created only once in the life cycle, right? Whenever the uh, uh, servlet is loaded, that time the web container, it is going to create the objects, request object and response object for the servlet. So this is going to be done only once in the lifetime. Then after this, we will call the init method, right? Init means initialization, right? This init method is called by web container only. Sir, where we are going to call this init method means this init method is called by the web container on the servlet to create the servlet object, right? Or to instance the servlet object, right? Once this is done, sir, how this is going to be done? Better this servlet, this init method has its own syntax, right? You can see here, I provided syntax for the init. So public void init, it is using a servlet config class, right? This is the object of the class. If you have any exception, servlet related exceptions, I am throwing by using this throws keyword, right? Sir, what is this servlet config class? This an object of servlet config is created. This is the object, config object. This is going to be created by the web container for each servlet, and this object can be used to get the information about the information about the complete servlet from the web.xml. So whenever we create the application, we created the deployment descriptor file. Uh, Better if you are missed, refer 5.6, 5.5. There we discussed this web directory structure. There we have the web.xml. In web.xml, we will give the deploy. This is called as deployment descriptor file. There we have the complete mapping, right? So this servlet config is the one that is used to get the complete information about the servlet from this web.xml, right? So for that purpose, we use this init. Init, the object, whenever the object is created, it gets the servlet information from the web.xml. After that, we will call the service method. That is only the next method in the life cycle of the servlet. So first we are loaded, then we are created object to the servlet by using this web container. Then we are called init method, that is loading the servlet information by using this config object. Then we are calling the service method. Sir, what the service method will do? The container, it calls the service method each time whenever the servlet is received, right? Whenever the servlet is received the request, for each request, it is going to call the service method. So this service method will call by the either do get or do post. Here we use different methods. You can use the do get method or you can use the do post method. So by using do get or do post method, this is going to be called. These are all the HTTP request and response methods, beta, right? We will see, sir, what is this HTTP request, what is this HTTP response means. These are all the classes, they are available in the HTTP servlet package. So I will explain that whenever we are discussing the application, right? So whenever we call the service method, service method is responsible to provide the service by using the request object and response object. You can call the service method by using either do request or do get or do post methods, right? Then once the service is done, whatever the operation which you want to perform, if you are done with that operation in the ready method, then we need to deallocate the memory which is allocated to these objects, and for every request it is going to start a thread. So we need to deallocate the memory for the thread, and we need to deallocate the memory for the request object and response object. That we are going to do by using this destroy method. So whenever you are calling the destroy method, what will happen? The memory which is allocated to this servlet, that is going to be deallocated, right? So init means indirectly we are allocating the memory and we are getting the servlet information from the config file. Service method, it provides the services or whatever the actions which you want to perform, that is going to be done by the service method with the help of do get and do post. Once the service is done, then we call the destroy method, that is going to be deallocate the memory which is allocated to this uh, request object, response object, and the thread, right? So do we have any difference between the do get and do post? Of course, better. So these are all the list of differences between the do get and do post. So in do get method, whatever the parameters which you are sending, for example, let's say this is my web page, right? So here I am entering the username and I'm entering the password, right? And I'm clicking on the submit button. To send this data, I'm using the do get method. Let us assume. So whatever the parameters which you are using, right? Those parameters, they are going to be appended in the URL, right? And they will be sent along with the header information, right? Whatever the parameters which are there in that particular form, those parameters, they are going to be appended to the URL and they will be sent along with the header information. When it comes to the do post, those parameters will be sent in a separate body. This is a major difference between the do get and do post. And here the maximum size is 240 bytes only beta. That in the sense, maximum size of data that can send by using this do get is 240 bytes only. Here there is no maximum size for the data. In when it comes to the do post, there is no restriction. And here the parameters are not going to be encrypted. Here the parameters are going to be encrypted. That in the sense, if you are giving the parameters here and you are sending by using do post means the data will be hidden in the URL. That is the meaning of the encrypted, right? And do method generally it is used to query or to get the some information from the server. But do post, it is used to update the or the post some information to the server, right? That is one more difference between the do get and do post, right? Do get is faster because the memory size is restricted and it is not encrypting data, and the content length is also restricted. Whereas do post, there is no restriction in the size. The data has to be encrypted and data is to be sent in a separate format. So for all these operations, it will be little bit compared to the do get, right? These are all the differences between the do get and do post. Now, sir, then we will see how to create the servlet and how to run the servlet. Because servlet can be created in three different ways. Either you can create by using the HTTP servlet class. You can use HTTP servlet class, or you can use servlet interface, or you can use generic servlet. You can use these three ways to create the servlet. These are the two ways which are there in our syllabus. So I will discuss example for each of them, right? Now, come back to the example beta. So here I'm going to create a application which I want to get the parameters and I want to display the welcome message or something else like that. That in the sense, I'm designing a web page, right? So in this web page, I'm asking the user to enter their name. Enter your name. Here you are going to enter the name, and after that you are going to submit by using this submit button. So this is a web page which I am going to create. First one, this web page is a HTML web page. Then I want to create a servlet. That servlet, whatever the information which you are filled here, that I want to send to the servlet either by using do get or do post method. You can use do get or do post method. By using that, I'm going to send that request to the servlet. This servlet responsibility is to read the information from the web browser, and it need to be processed. And along with that, I want to display the this servlet need to generate the response for that web page, like saying, let's say, enter your name, you are entered Mahinder. Welcome Mahinder. So this is how I want to read the parameters and I want to generate the response according to the parameters, right? So for that purpose, I'm designing the web page, I'm designing a servlet class. Then to map these two things, to map the web page with the servlet, I'm designing the web.xml, right? And required libraries, I'm going to place it in the web server. So these are all the parameters. First, I need to design. These are all the programs I need to design. Then we will keep it in a proper directory structure. We will deploy it in the server so that you can run it and you can get the output. Now, I'm creating the application which is displaying the name with the welcome message. That's what I'm taking the application name as name application. So every application, it should contain web.inf folder. So here I am taking the web.inf folder. This is my web.inf folder. So as we know, web.inf folder, it contains the classes folder, right? If you see here, I have the classes folder. So I created a classes folder. In classes folder, what we can do, we can place the servlet classes. So here I am placing the servlet classes. This part is done, beta. Then, sir, what else is required? Beta, what I am saying, you need the web.xml, right? So that web.xml, we are going to place under the web.inf only. So within this web.inf, I'm also going to place the web.xml. This web.xml is nothing but the deployment descriptor file, right? So I will explain this servlet and this deployment descriptor. I will explain everything. Then, sir, I need a web page. As we studied this directory structure, you can place the web pages and static resources directly under the main file. So here, under name only, I am creating the index web page. Here I am placing the web pages. So which web page I am creating? Index web page. Now we will go one by one. Sir, what is there in the index web page? So I'm opening, but just a basic knowledge is required to understand this HTML code. If not, you get it from the internet. So here, just I'm creating a HTML page. That's what I'm using the HTML tag. I'm not taking any title or something like that. I'm taking the body. There I'm taking the action tag, that is form, which I'm creating. So I'm performing the action on a pattern that is welcome. So this is the URL pattern which we are going to use it later, beta. I'm using the method get method. If you are using the get method, there you should use do get method. Here you are using the get method in the index page. That in the sense here you should use do get. If you are using post method here, then you can use here do post method, like that. All right. Now, so what you are, this is all about the whenever you are performing action on that form, so that will be sent, that request will be sent to this welcome URL pattern. From there, sir, where we are going to use this welcome URL pattern, I will show you better. Just keep that in mind. Next, what I want to do in my form, just I am asking the user like enter your name. So this is the one. The input type is text. The name is name, right? So this is what I am taking from the user. Next, I want a button that is submit type of button. The value is something like login. This is the web page which I created. I kept it in the web.xml. Sorry, I kept it in the web pages folder, right? Directly under the main directory. So here it is. This is done. Next, what to do? Web page designing is done. Then design your servlet. 1 minute. I will show you. So minimize this. Your servlet is there in the classes folder. This is compiled servlet beta. But the servlets, they do not have the main method because servlets are going to be run by the servers. So you should compile the servlet. Then you should keep it in the classes folder. Now, so this JavaX is the advanced library. There I have the Servlet package. There I'm getting this HTTP Servlet request and Servlet response classes I want. That's what I'm using this HTTP package. Star means I'm going to get the HTTP Servlet class, HTTP Servlet request class, HTTP Servlet response class. HTTP Servlet request class, which is used to send the request. HTTP Servlet response class, which is used to get the response, right? If you have any exceptions, then I want to handle the exceptions. So those exceptions, that is Servlet exception and input output exception, I don't want to handle, system wants to handle. That's what I'm using throws keyword to throw the exception, right? So that's what I'm importing the Servlet package as well. Then, sir, what else we will use from the Servlet package means if you want the Servlet lifecycle methods, you can use init star init service destroy, that we can use here. Then I'm importing the IO package because whenever you are performing read write operations, there may be a chance to get the exception. That's what I'm throwing that exception here, right? Then, so whatever the response, whenever the Servlet receives the request, it creates an object, right? And it reads the request from the request object. And after reading the request, what the Servlet will do? Servlet, it generates a response. So the response type I want to set, whether you want to display the response as a text or whether you want to display it as a HTML page. So that response type, the set content type is either text or HTML, that I am doing, right? Then after this, I'm using the print writer class. Sir, what is the purpose of print writer class means? Better this print writer class, which is used to print the output on the web browser. If you want to print the output in Java, we use system.out.println. In C, we use printf. Same way, if you want to print the data on the web browser, then we use this print writer class, right? So I am getting the response from the request object, response object, and I am writing it in the print writer object. So by using that, by using print writer object, I am going to print the data on the web page. So whatever the data which you are sent, right? Now I will clear this beta. So we are set at the response type, that is done. Response type is we are set at, we are read the response and we are written in the print writer class. Now from request object, what you are sending? You are sending the name. So I am getting the parameter by using this get parameter. So on top of request object, I am applying the get parameter method. I am getting the parameter and that parameter I am storing it in the name variable. Now, what I want to do, just I want to display the welcome message. Welcome, whatever the name which you sent. Mahinder, let's say welcome Mahinder, welcome Ravinder. This is how I am going to display the message, right? This is all about Servlet beta. So you cannot run this servlet, just you can compile the servlet and you place it in the classes folder. Now what we did, we designed the web page, we designed the servlet. So the mapping is required from the servlet to the web page to the servlet. So that we are going to do it in the web.xml. Now we'll see the web.xml beta. Minimize this or close this. This is our web.xml. Open it. This is a common procedure for all servlets beta. Right. Now you can see here what we are doing. We are creating a web application. There we are creating a servlet name. I'm taking beta servlet name. You can take as anything, right? Here, sir, I want to take the servlet name as NGIT. So you can take the servlet name as something like NGIT. So the NGIT servlet is mapped with the demo servlet. The servlet class is demo servlet, right? This servlet we are closing. Now I want to map with the web page. So your servlet is mapped with the NGAT, right? That NGAT is mapped with a URL pattern that is welcome. This is the welcome URL pattern which we are used in the web page. That's what I told you to remember here. In web page, we have the welcome. I will show you if you want. So this is a welcome pattern, URL pattern that is mapped here, right? That in the sense, what is happening if you are working on the web page after clicking on submit button, so that performs action on welcome. welcome is linked with NGIT, NGIT is linked with demo servlet. I'm repeating, this is a web page that is mapped with the welcome URL. That welcome URL pattern is mapped with the NGIT servlet. The NGIT servlet is mapped with the demo servlet. What the demo servlet will do? It will perform the action, or it will perform the requested action, and that will generate the response, and it will display the response, right? This is how we are going to create the servlets beta. Now the creation of servlet is done. Then what to do? Beta, you compile the servlet, right? I gave you the your class setup path for the compiling the servlet in the document, right? Then once after compiling the servlet means this is same Java C space class name dot Java. Then you'll get the dat class file that deployed in the classes folder. Then this is your application. Take this application, right, and deploy in your server. So my application is there in E drive, right? I'm taking that application. So now I want to deploy it in the server. Go to this PC, then C drive. In C drive, we have the program files. In program files, we have this Apache Software Foundation, then Tomcat 6, then web apps folder, because we are created web application. Here you need to deploy your application. So continue. So this is the application which we deployed here. After this, you come back and start your server. Go to bin, right? Then start your server. So that application you can access in your web server. It takes time, beta. Yeah, beta. Whenever we are deploying the application, you can see here. So info deploying web application directory, that is name, right? So just right now I logged in. So I given my username and password. You can see that application will shown here, right? So if you click on name, then it is asking you to enter your name. Let's say I'm entering Ravi. So I'm clicking on login. Then Servlet is reading my request, and it is reading my parameters, and it is generating the response, right? Welcome, Ravi. This is the way of creating an application, deploying an application, and executing an application, right? Chalo guys.